Welcome to this episode of the Maximus Podcast with your hosts, Bobby Maximus, yours truly, and my good friend, Joe Sabula. And we are here today to talk about TRT, hormone therapy, hormone replacement, if you will, which, by the way, I look at as nothing more than a steroid. Now, I know there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to get upset because there are a bunch of people out there who claim that they suffer from low testosterone, or they don't have enough human growth hormone, or they don't have enough, what's the other one? HCG, I think it is, which is like an anti-aging compound. But here's my thing. I think it's a shortcut. And I think for 99 out of 100 men, it's the easy way out because they don't want to do the genuine work.
Well, and I'm going to agree with you on that, obviously, because we've talked about this before, but I feel like there are legitimate cases, right? There are 100% going to be legitimate cases, but there's also legitimate uses for what some people would consider just straight up steroids. Like I know people who've had growth disorders, people who've been recovering from, surgeries that have left like one side way weaker than the other. There are a time and a place when a physician will actually utilize those as tools to help with training. That's very different. That's very different than what we're talking about here today. And I think when somebody finds out they're low T, like you said, it's like the easy way out is to just go on the pills, right? Just start taking the supplement. But maybe taking the easy way out is what led them to needing to do that in the first place. And so I feel like we got to go back and like solve the problem and see if that fixes it first.
Well, and here's what I'm talking about. We live in a day and age where we're prescribed all kinds of drugs. I don't necessarily agree with that, especially when you can fix it with a non-medical intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the TRT thing, Joe. You're sleeping 4 hours a night. You're stressed out. You're miserable. You eat like shit. You drink booze Thursday through Sunday. Of course, as a 40-year-old man, your testosterone is going to be in the toilet. You're doing nothing to take care of yourself. And my problem is you go to your doctor, they test you, you have low T. That doctor doesn't address the sleep. They don't address the booze. They don't address the processed food. They don't address the stress. You just get handed a prescription for some hormone. And then all of a sudden, that's going to fix all your issues.
And I want to just step back before we go too much further, because I will give a physician the benefit of the doubt and say they've probably said that to most of these guys. Well, we got to improve your sleep. We got to improve your diet. You got to work out more. And then a month later, nothing's changed because they've done nothing. And they just say to the doctor, yeah, I've tried everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you just haven't. Again, the issue that caused you to be where you're at has not changed. And even when the doctor says, because they'll do that, they'll be like, well, I need you to lose a few pounds. They're not going to be like, if you don't lose 30 pounds by this time next year, you're probably going to be a type 2 diabetic. They won't give you something that direct, right? They'll just say something off the cuff, like, try to eat better. Well, what does that mean? It doesn't really help you out very much, but like they're not really empowered to do much more than that. And then a year later, nothing's changed. So they're like, you know what? Behavioral therapy isn't working, even though you didn't really try it. So we'll just go with the drugs.
And Joe, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're not willing to do the work. So now you're just going to use this bandaid solution.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with hormone replacement and weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
You're not willing to put down the bag of Doritos. You're not willing to stop eating the ice cream. You're not willing to give up your half a bottle of wine every night. You're not willing to go to the gym and actually work hard. But you are willing to take some pill that may or may not come with a ton of side effects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And by the way, it's not much different than antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication.
Yeah.
Now, are there situations where people genuinely need that? Absolutely. Should there be any shame associated with that? Absolutely not. There are people that need help. But if the source of your anxiety and depression is that you're miserable in your marriage, why don't you do the work to fix your marriage?
Mm-hmm.
If it's that you hate your job, why don't you get a new job or do something to fix the job you're in? Like we almost acquiesce to the fact that we're trapped and we're powerless and that do need some type of external aid. And so that's my big issue, because everywhere I look, I'm seeing hormone therapy, TRT recommended.
Mm-hmm.
I have an issue with it because of how it's being used. Now, if you're doing every single other thing right and you're still low, you still want to boost, you still want to do whatever you want to do because you want to be bigger, faster, stronger, more fit, better skin, more youthful. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But you've got to be doing those other things. And that leads me to the thing I really want to talk about today. What a fraud you are if you don't tell people you're on this stuff and peddle fitness advice.
Yeah.
That is the biggest issue for me, because you're missing a monumental piece of the puzzle. So at least if you're going to be on TRT, you're going to be on hormone therapy, and you're a trainer, or you fancy yourself as some type of fitness expert, just tell me that you're on that stuff before I decide to follow your program, because the program's not going to work the same, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, people used to criticize Westside Barbell and saying, well, those training methods only really work for those guys because those guys are all juicing. And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, the level that those particular human beings are operating on, like they got the strongest human beings on the planet. I mean, the program is designed for them. It's not designed for some guy who works a desk job and works out, 3 days a week kind of a thing. That's going to look different. And I don't think it's 100% because of drugs, because of supplements, because of any kind of hormone therapy. I think there's also like a level of performance that's different. These guys also live in the gym. You know what I mean? They're in there hours upon hours every day. That's all they care about. They would quit their job and go live in the gym if they could.
My question is,
I think that's just a different situation, but I do think there's some validity to that as well. If you're a trainer and you're trying to say that doing I'm not making fun of kettlebell people, because you put up a nasty kettlebell post the other day, which was hilarious, by the way. But like, if you're trying to say my kettlebell program is going to get you into this shape, and then you're standing there and you're like, super lean and super jacked and super ripped, there's really no difference between that and saying like, the Gazelle or the Ab Machine, 2010 suddenly is the best thing in the world. And it's like, we know you were in shape before you bought the shake weight. You know what I mean? The shake weight didn't give you the 6-pack abs. The shake weight didn't give you the 24-inch pythons. All right. You had that, and then you decided to shill the shake weight. And so it makes everything you say suspect. It makes you a bit of a shill.
And you can't do the program properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's look at the Westside example. A normal person who's not on steroids probably cannot handle that volume without injury, and is probably going to run into more plateaus, more pitfalls. They're not going to be able to do it properly. Well, now let's say you're doing this for looks. So let's bring it down to like the average man in the TRT. Mm-hmm. So great, Joe, sign up for my ladder program. You're going to do 30 minutes a day, and I promise you're going to have abs, blah, 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 blah. It's the program I do. It works for me. If I'm on TRT, of course it works for me, because I'm supercharged.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just give the program without all the other information. Now, to bring it to something maybe a little more mainstream, it's one of the reasons why I constantly post that I'm in the ice bath, that I constantly post that I'm in the sauna, that I constantly post. I did an Instagram story the other day about my first form supplements. I've got an entire like storeroom of them.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I post my diet, because I'm going to tell you, I think my workouts are good, but do I look like this because I do my workouts, or do I look like this because I sleep 8 to 9 hours a night in the dark out environment, have an ice bath, 2 ice baths every day, have a sauna every day, eat a diet that's low in processed food, limit my booze, limit my stress, take a bunch of supplements from First Form. I take CBD. I, sit in the Normatec boots every day. Like, that's a huge component.
So is what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is what you're saying that if you want to achieve what Bobby Maximus achieves, if you want to do, not even achieve, just if you want to do what Bobby Maximus does, then you have to do everything that Bobby Maximus does. You can't just say, oh, I do the workout he does, and then the other 96% of my day is completely different. Is that what you're getting at? Because that sounds reasonable and intelligent to expect.
You you would think, and that's what people don't see, right? Like it's like Patrick Mahomes going to throw a football.
Yeah.
You think it's as simple as throwing a football, and you're just going to throw a football in the backyard a half hour a day, and you're going to be Patrick Mahomes. But what about the 20 hours of videotape he watches every week?
Yeah.
What about the extra conditioning? What about the recovery? What about the massage? What about the acupuncture? What about I think they were saying that Tom Brady spends over $1 million a year on his body.
Well, and I'll use Tom Brady as an example, because how many years of work did he put in before he even started as a quarterback?
Yeah.
It's not like he just walked in for that unprepared. And people who haven't worked out, have never worked out, think that they're just going to be able to grab onto one piece of that puzzle and get that result. And it's like, guys, it took Bobby Maximus wasn't born this big, this strong, right? I wasn't born 6 foot tall, 220 pounds of jacked muscle. I had to work at it. And it's taken years to figure out how to find that balance. What kind of workouts are effective for me, right? What kind of nutrition? Again, talk about fixing your marriage, right? Like the kind of stuff that doesn't happen overnight, the kind of stuff that takes a lot of effort over a very, very long time, plays a really huge role into where we are today. And then 10 years from now, when we're even better at this stuff, people act like it's some kind of miracle or that it was just gifted to us.
But why would I want to do that when I could just take a pill? I don't understand. Right? Like why can't I just take the thing? But that's, again, it comes back to my issue. That's what people want to do. They want to take the easy way out. And there's going to be a bunch of people that listen to this that are on hormone therapy or TRT, and they're going to say, or they're on flat out steroids. Yeah. Well, I still had to do the work. I still had to. You know what the reality is, Joe? If I put you on TRT right now and I put me on TRT right now, we would be better. We would be bigger. We would be faster. We would be stronger. Like it's why I could do it without drugs. Well, let me take your drugs away and then do it. And the answer is no, you wouldn't. Like Ben Johnson back in the Olympics when he ran the 100, and I think it was 9.77. It was the world record at the time. Could he have done that without steroids? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Like it's that simple. Could Barry Bonds have hit all those home runs without steroids? The answer is no.
And hey, I'm going to give Barry Bonds credit, though, because if Barry Bonds could have hit all of those home runs without steroids, he would have.
Yes.
But he knew that he couldn't. There wasn't anything else that he could do. Yeah.
And so that's why I respect Andy Pettit, I think, said it in a Major League Baseball conference. They were asked why he took steroids. And he's one of the people that took steroids, but he doesn't get vilified like the other guys do. And I really believe it's because he was honest. What did you take? Here's what I took. Why? Because I wanted to be a better pitcher. Do you believe it made you a better pitcher? Absolutely. So why did you take it again? Well, I just signed the biggest pitching contract in baseball history. There's a lot of pressure. I was playing for the Yankees, and I knew it would make me better. Would you have all these strikeouts without steroids? No. Like, if you're honest about it. And so that's my issue with fitness influencers is if you make the choice to be on something, like that's your own business. I'm not in charge of the side effects. I'm not in charge of your mental health. I'm not in charge of, you go do it. And I say mental health because I think, Joe, that taking the easy way out, that being on hormones, being on steroids, I think it can affect your mental health. Because deep down, you know, you didn't do all of that work on your own. When you're telling, I built this, I did this, you kind of had a bit of a head start. You kind of had a bit of a boost. You kind of had a bit of a, so I'm not worried about your health or anything like that, but just at least be honest with people. When you're walking around with your six pack, when you're walking around with your ripped shoulders, when you rip biceps, talking about how you are the hardest worker in the room, talking about how you out hustle everybody, talking about you out grind everybody. That's just not true. Yeah. Why don't you admit to me? And the irony of this is a lot of people who are on TRT won't say they're on TRT.
Yeah.
Won't just come out and admit it. A lot of people who are on steroids won't admit they're on steroids.
I'll even go you one further. A lot of people who will say it doesn't matter if you do steroids still won't admit that they're using.
That's the thing. And so there are a group of fitness influencers who have said, yes, I'm on TRT. But I respect the hell out of it. I don't know their medical history. I don't know if they're doing anything right or wrong. I don't know if they've tried the sleep thing. and to cut out booze and to cut out processed food, and they're still low, and it's a genuine medical issue. That's not for me to judge.
Yeah.
But I respect the fact that they're forthright with that information.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if I were to try their program and I'm not seeing the result, I would say, oh, maybe there is something to that. Maybe that's where that line is drawn. Yeah.
But if you're tricking people, which is essentially what you're doing, and by the way, if you are doing something, you shouldn't have a hard time with admitting that you are. Like if you're
it's funny,
it's good for you.
It's funny to me that it never happens the other way around. Like really jacked dudes don't walk around trying to convince people they're taking steroids. I think we should do that. I want to get so ripped, so cut that I'm like, oh yeah, I just totally take steroids and I never work out. And everybody's just like, oh yeah, cool.
It makes total sense. Here's where the problem is. I'm glad you brought that up because it brought me to a whole nother speaking point. The reason a lot of people are unfairly accused of being on stuff is because there are a lot of people that don't do the work in the gym. They don't sleep right. They don't eat right. They go get TRT as a bandaid solution and they're still out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
They still don't look that great. And so therefore, you know that your buddy Dave, Mickey, Ryan, Paul, whoever your buddy is, it's on the TRT. It's not that fit, but he's on TRT. Now, every person you see that's more fit than Paul or Ricky or Dave or Mickey or whatever names I said, they now must also be on something.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you could have it naturally without even looking into their life and saying, well, yeah, you have a nutritionist and you have a chef and you've got an ice bath and you've got a sauna and you've got that stuff makes a real difference.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and you're one of these guys that's watching these commercials on TV for these pharmaceuticals, know there's a lot of side effects with this stuff. Know that you go down a bad path. Know that when you go off it, because you've got to cycle off it, there's going to be some depression. There's going to be some down periods. There's going to be some negative feelings. You're on it long term, heart disease, prostate cancer. You can look this stuff up. My whole thing to you, my plea to you is before you just try to take the easy way out and you jump on something, put in the effort to doing it right and just see what happens. Just see what happens if you sleep 8 hours a night. Just see what happens if you cut down the garbage cardio and introduce some heavy lifting and some sprinting. Just see what happens if you have a 20-minute sauna every day. I mean, might change your life versus just rubbing some cream on and hoping for the best. So I needed to get that off my chest, Joe, because I'm seeing all these people that are pushing this stuff. And I'm not necessarily against it for some people, a portion of the population, but I'm honestly against it for most.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't think that any medication, honestly, should be taken seriously. I don't think you should just look at like quick, easy solutions, and just assume that, oh, well, I just have this and I need that. Like, do the work, try. And if you come up to me and you're like, hey, I'm on TRT, I'm training you, whatever. And you're like, I'm on TRT. I just want you to know that, like, cool. Like, let's talk about it a little bit. Like, why? You're like, oh, because I just want to like get the chicks. It's like, oh, okay. You're one of those guys, right? It's very different from like, I have a friend who's got a family history of very low T, and it's a constant thing about like, should I start, or can I find a way to try to address this without getting on it? Because once you get on it,
fix everything naturally, and then if you can't, go ahead. Yeah. By the way, I feel the same about surgery, Joe.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think cutting into your body is something that needs to be taken lightly.
I want to avoid it. If I had a chance to rehab my shoulder through 3 months of physiotherapy or just go get it fixed, I'm doing the physiotherapy every time. Like every time I can avoid going under the knife, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty much that simple. So if you took anything from this episode, don't take the easy way out. Like do the right things that you're supposed to do. Stop looking for the Band-Aid. Stop. And then if you do go down the Band-Aid route, when your friends marvel at how good you look, just be honest. Don't lie. Have some integrity. Don't be a cheater. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like my Joe. I'm for the all steroid games. And I'm for the absolutely no steroid games.
Yeah.
But I'm not for some of us are on steroids and winning, and we did it through our hard work and our grind and our hustle but we cheated.
Yeah.
That's the issue I have. Like, just level the playing field.
Yep. Agreed.
That's it. This is another episode of the Maximus Podcast. If you like this, we didn't force ads down your throat. We didn't harass you to buy stuff, even though I really wanted to, because I want to make some money. Go share this. Send it all over. Take some video clips. Record it. We're not going to come after you for copyright infringement. Just send it out to the world. Thank you very much.